Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and in just a moment we're going to be looking at quite a lot of hands that I played in a early hours Sunday morning session on Sky Poker. There's quite a lot of hands to get through, so go and get yourself a cup of tea, beer, whatever it is, whatever time of day it is you're watching, and settle down and hopefully you'll see some fun hands. Before we get into that, please do like this video. Please do comment on it if you enjoy the stuff I do. I am trying to grow my views a little bit, just for no other reason than I'd like to grow my views. And I believe that hitting like on the videos and adding comments, etc., especially in the first few hours that the video is up on YouTube, helps it get to non-subscribers, etc. So please do hit the like, hit the share, subscribe, comment, all of those things, and I'd be pretty delighted. I'd like to try and get to 500 views a week per video and then build from there. So we're currently at 300. I'd like to get a little bit more than that if possible. If not, no big deal, but it would be fun. These hands are all, or pretty much all, at some incredibly good tables. I've been doing pretty well recently, getting back to enjoying the game more. I'm not sure how well I'm going to play all of these hands because I haven't looked back at them after putting the video together. But I was playing 5 tables at a point, which I didn't really want to be doing, but the tables were so good, and that's been rare for Sky lately to be able to find like 4 or 5 really good tables. So my play might not be as good as I would like it to be, but I'm sure you're going to enjoy all the hands because there are some interesting ones in here to say the least. Not too many that are going to need huge strategical analysis, I don't think, but I'll do my best to not just gloss over stuff and be like, yeah, that was standard, blah blah blah. I'll try and give my thoughts on what was going through my mind during the hands as best as possible, and also if I think I've done something that isn't good in hindsight, I'll certainly be honest enough to say that too. So we're starting off here to 20 nil table. There's going to be hands from 20 nil, 30 nil, and 50 nil. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. So we're going to this first hand here. We have 2 jacks. We've opened under the gun, and we've got 3 callers. We get this flop. Reads on players are Andy Wiz. I wasn't too familiar with. I suspect he might long term be a blue tag. Nick 1970 again, someone I'm not that familiar with. He's got my green tag for. I know they're not a regular, but he could end up blue, and SMB is already blue. So the first question here is going to be if it checks to us. Let's see first if it does. Andy checks, and our first debate here is: do we just go to like bet now and just get value? Like, I'm not saying protect our hand. We can't protect our hand here. If someone's got a reasonable draw, there's going to be no protecting it. So we just kind of build the pot while we like our hand, I guess. So the question is: do we like bet here and then like reevaluate turns, or do we just try and get all the money in right now against players who are very likely to be willing to stack off with 10x, with draws, etc.? And I think that what we need to do there to decide whether to bet or whether to check is how likely is it that one of the players behind us is going to bet if we check, so to set up a raise. Because I'm happy to just check raise and get this in at like with 100 bigs left behind here. We've got an SPR of around 9 and a bit. Might be a little bit too big to just get an overpairing. Normally, you maybe wouldn't want to do that, but I think at this table, you just, in my opinion, you just want to try and get the money in as quickly as possible before some awful turn cards come off. You know, there's so many turn cards we wouldn't want to see. If I bet and I got called, I wouldn't hate seeing over cards, but there's diamonds that I wouldn't want to see. There's like an 8, there's a 9. Maybe even like a 4 or a 5 could bring some 2 person straights against these guys. So I'd like to try and play one street poker here and just get the check raise in and hopefully get all the money in. It's normally what I'm going to want to do, multi-way with multiple players who probably should be blue tagged and not green tagged. So yeah, we do go for the check, and then it's player bets, SMV bets, and I'm pretty happy about this because if it's him, we're going to get it in against. He doesn't have a full stack, and you know it's going to hurt less, I suppose, if he does have us beat or gets it against us. Then Andy Wiz comes along, And so like, what do we do here now? There's already now there's £6 in the pot. And I remember this hand now, and I think I made a mistake. I think I should just shove here, right now. I think there's a very good chance we're going to get called in at least one spot, possibly two. I don't remember what size I used, but I know I'm not going to like it because looking back now, I think I should just jam. But just pure value. We're going to get called by worse a lot, and if we beat them, we're going to lose a big pot anyway. Because if we check raise here to say £7, there's not going to be a turn I'm going to not jam on. I mean, I guess if it came down like an 8 or a 9 of diamonds and Andy was still in the pot, we'd have maybe reason to abandon the mission. But yeah, I think I don't know what size I ended up going to. Looks like I'm going to go to £7.20. I think I should just shove. I think there's no way, but one of these guys is almost certainly calling. I think if against regulars, no. I think check shove here would be not ideal. It would make money, but it wouldn't be ideal. But I think against these two guys, I think we can just jam here for super clean value. I think this guy's always calling, and this guy's probably just got a draw. And if we get him to fold some equity while isolating ourselves against him, who we very likely ahead of, I think that's a good outcome. I ended up just going with the £7.20, which I don't like in hindsight. I think all in's the best play. Turns a king of diamonds, which isn't a good card, but there's £5 left, so just has to go in now. We do have the jack of diamonds in case he does have a small flush, which is what he has. Um, Kind of unfortunate, but never mind. It's not the end of the world. And we brick out, and he drags the pot down. This hand is just in because I was a bit annoyed with myself about the situation. This guy had just been going all in a lot. He'd just been like, literally, his stack at one point was much higher than this, and I think he lost a few pots, and he'd just given up. He was just kind of all in, all in, all in, all in, and almost every hand all in. So I was ready to gamble with him. And then he didn't go all in. He did like a non-all in raise, and as soon as he did that, I was like, well, he's a big hand. Because he had this, so he was going all in with any two, and all of a sudden he drops to 70. I should have seen this one coming, really, but a 3-bet to isolate. You're not going to be surprised when you see what he has. I mean, we'll probably just have to go broke here anyway, because the guy was just on a suicide mission. Then he did the non-all-in 4-bet too, and he just has kings. And I mean, it's face up. I mean, fine, I don't really care. It's not the end of the world, But it was just I was just remember being irritated at myself at the time, which is why I marked the hand because irritated that he'd made it very. I mean, once we made the 3-bet, there's no folding our hand. But I could have picked up on the 70p. Well, I did pick up on it. I just chose not to act on it. No big deal, not the end of the world. Again, but it's pretty annoying that it's very obvious, or it felt very obvious that he just had a monster because he didn't go all in, which he had been doing. So it felt pretty obvious, and I just paid the cunt off. But big deal. I think this is the start of I think we had this hand, the next hand, and another hand going at the same. If we look at the time on here, 109. Pretty sure there was like 3 monster hands that just went bang, bang, bang. It was quite exciting. This is the first of them. Ahinhaha or Ahinaha is a regular. He's got my orange tag because I can't work the fucker out. I've asked a few people about him, mixed opinions. I have my own opinions on what he does good, what he doesn't do so good, and how to try and exploit that. But whether I'm right or not, who knows? I don't think he's anything too good, but I've thought that about a lot of players in the past who turned out to be very good. So it's certainly not an insult on him. What I've seen, I've been overly impressed with, but he undoubtedly makes money in the games and he grinds and he grafts. So good luck to the lad. Oh, lass, whatever. So anyway, we've flop bottom set. We check again because I'm just trying to hopefully get one of these two guys to bet. And the plan was from here was just kind of try and look weak. Because if this player is familiar with my game, which he likely will be a little bit, he will be aware that I am somewhat passive. I'm certainly not one of the more aggressive regulars. And I know there's a school of thought because I discussed it with other players that I play with, other players who observe the games. I've I was present last night when fucking the two massive cunts, Duesenberg and Shrimpy, were discussing me. We were railing Shrimpy and talking grime, but because it was late at night and my wife is a light sleeper, when we're having the late at night sessions, I tend not to join them um, because I can't participate. But we were railing Shrimpy at his final table, and I just wanted to watch the cards upstream without contributing. So those two were talking, and they were being cunts because they knew I couldn't respond. And yeah, they were discussing how easy it is to make me fold. And it is quite easy to make me fold. And I think that other regulars will be aware of that too. So if I'm like in a spot with someone who I suspect might think it's easy to make me fold, then I will take lines to try and induce them to make me fold. So I take like an really elaborate slow play here. He bets 60 pence. I don't think he's particularly strong when he hasn't bet the flop. He's just betting the turn, half pot, multi-way. Just on a week of strength. I don't think we're going to get too much action on a raise. For a raise at this point, I think we're going to be kind of face up as having um, either a straight or a set. And I just don't think he's too strong doing this. So I'm just going to like continue letting the rope out. We check the river. He bets again, and obviously we have to raise now. We've got a full house. And we pop it up to £6.40, which is pretty much face up as we've got a really strong hand. No one ever does it as a bluff. It's never a bluff. We're kind of relying on him to have King X here, or better, to enable us to get a call. We're not getting a call from 10x or something like that, which I don't think he plays this way anyway. We're just hoping that now he's just. My read is he doesn't have much of a hand and he's just trying to make me fold. But we have to raise just on the off chance he does have like King X or something. So we do pop the raise in. If he jams, I'm puking, but I think we just have an easy fold. He tanks, calls, and I think he actually when I look back on the hand, can't remember, but I'm pretty sure he had Jack Queen, and he went right in the tank and called, and it's a grim spot for him because Jack Queen should probably be a snap call against most people here. You got the straight, but against me, if he, then he'll know that I'm kind of a nit and don't get too far out of line. It's a shitty spot. But I guess I could just have too much King X there and do that. So he has to call. But he went in the tank, and I'm not surprised because I'd go in the tank against me in that spot too. Yeah, so here we can see it's 109 last time, 110 this hand. This is the very next hand at this table. You've got the ace jack of diamonds. We 3-bet to isolate a green tag player. Don't flop very much. I don't think I want to see myself bet here. We could have the best hand. Being raised would stink. I think my note on Lally is basically just don't fall to him. So that suggests that I think he can be like quite bluff heavy and a little bit spewy possibly. So I think if we bet here and face a raise or something like that, it's putting ourselves in a tricky-ish spot. Check back. We can call a lot of turns against this guy because he will just have like a lot of like bets on the turn that aren't necessarily strong hands. I mean, it looks like I'm going to the bet bass, and maybe I'm going to make a bet here. But I think I think this is like the difference between looking at things back in review and playing them live when you've got a time bank going down. And I think that's probably why I was struggled a bit in February because I was just overloading myself. I was playing too many hands per hour, not giving myself time to think things through, and not coming to the best decisions. And if I'm playing like 4 or 5 tables on Sky, I feel rushed there. I do my best work when I'm not feeling rushed. So maybe I'm going to check this back because it would seem like it's a standard thing for me to do. It's how I play. A lot of you guys would just bet here, 3-bet pot. You got an overcard, backdoor nut, flush draw, gut shot to the nuts, etc. I had no issue with betting here. I just don't think it's my style to want to bet here, and if I do, I think it shows that I'm not, or I wasn't putting like maximum thought into it. But I think at the same time as this hand was going on, I think we had another hand going on at another table. So it'd be understandable if I do just like autopilot bet here. But I think against a lot of players, that's fine. Against this guy, I think I prefer to check. So let's see what I do. Now we took the hand. Yeah, we did check. We turn the flush draw. And I think now we can just start betting and building the pot. We've got Oh wow, I didn't. I think we should need to bet that turn because when this guy doesn't probe the turn, I think he's just got a lot of give ups going on, or he's just going to check call. I don't think he's going to like check raise. I think he has check raise in the flop in him, but I don't think he has check raise on the turn. I think he just bets his really good stuff. I think we should probably just bet that turn to try and take the pot down. And if we don't, we just build in the pot because there's tons and tons of rules which can give us the nuts, which this one has done. So I'm a bit disappointed that I didn't build the pot on the turn, or tried to build the pot, or just tried to set the pot down. But we live with the nuts anyway, so we get bailed out. And he does now bet. He finds a big bet too. He bets the full pot. And we're just going to have to go all in. I think if I recall correctly, because what was going on the other table, yeah, you can see the mouse shoots up to the top. I've got two hands going on simultaneously. And this isn't a slow roll by me. I literally, like, almost timed out, which would have been a fucking disaster. You can see there, it was literally the very last second. If you ever watch this video, Lally, I promise you this was not any kind of slow roll. This is just me being really fucking shit at multi-tabling. We did just get the raise in the last minute, and it was a pretty shit spot for him. He has a straight two, and we get there. We get there, and I think if we had bet the turn, we probably would have been raised by this guy, but maybe not. But I promise you that wasn't a slow roll, Ali. That was literally me just being absolutely terrible at multi-tabling. If we don't just go on to the next hand, it's happening simultaneously. It's 110, which was when the last hand started too. So yeah, it's quite a bonkers couple of seconds or moment in the grind. So now we move on to the pocket eights. We've got another good table here. Steve, some regs will be familiar with him. He plays at all stakes. I've seen him playing 20 nil. Seems to be the lowest he plays, but I don't really look at the 10 nil lobby. I've also seen him playing 100 nil. I almost sat at a table Saturday night that he was playing 100 nil, but I didn't have the balls because I'm timid and I'm a coward and I'm weak. But we like to see him at the table. And I always root for Steve too because he's good action. Puts a lot of action in. Doesn't necessarily have the best results, but he's in there, just creating action, making good games. And so when I'm not in a pot with him, I root for him. And when he beats me in a pot, I try to be pleased for him because well, there's no point being anything else really, is there? Anyway, Martel 20, who I think is some kind of reg, but I'm not sure. Raises. We have the two eights. We're just going to set mine and let the players behind come in and try and flop a set in a multi-way pot. Chevy, who'd been being very aggressive, squeezes to £2.70. This is a deep table. Unless Martel reopens the betting again, we're just going to be, again, just like calling. At this depth, it's just a no-brainer. We just call. We flop ourselves a set. Check to Chevy, of course. Chevy bets £4.20. Martel calls. And this is happening at the same time as the other one. So I've got like two biggish spots happening simultaneously. And I'm an old man. I'm 48 years of age. I've got three other tables at this time, not just these two. I've got three others as well. And yeah, this is a good example. This situation, not this hand, but like the previous hand where we had the ace jack and I almost timed out. It's a really good example of why, at my age, I don't think playing more than three or perhaps four tables is a good idea. If there's 5 or 6 tables that just have to be played because they're just that good, I will do it. But I think my big blind 100 drops significantly because I'm just not able to function at that speed anymore. But anyways, that's maybe a discussion for another day. We've flopped a set here, and we've got Martel, who just doesn't have pocket aces because he just 4-bets that pre, probably 100% or close to, especially against Chevy, who was giving a lot of action. So he doesn't have aces. So we have the nuts here, unless Chevy has aces. And if Chevy has aces, then just fuck my life. He's just going to get all the money and he would deserve it because he was giving good action. He was being very aggressive. He was like creating a lot of action at the table. And if he just gets us for 200 plus bigs set over set, then c'est la vie. That's just the way it's going to be. So as far as I'm concerned, we just have the nuts here. And we're deep, and there's a few bad turn cards that we're not going to like if we just call multi-way. And also, we've got a lot of money to try and get in this pot. There's £40 I need to try and get in this pot. The good thing is there's already 16 in the pot, so it's not going to be too hard to get the money in. But I think we still need to just raise here. If Chevy in particular has an ace, then we're just going to get the lot off him. Um, and like I said, we don't want to see a green one come off particularly. Wouldn't want to see like a king come off either, really, because maybe Martel is, well, not kings, queens and jacks would be probably the worst cards at the end of the turn. I think Martel could have a lot of that. Chevy maybe less of it because I don't think he always bets them on the flop. But I think we just need to raise here and just make the hand really easy to play. Which is what I do. What size do I go to? I don't think it really matters too much. I think we could maybe go a little bit bigger when we're check raising in this spot. It's very, very polarizing, and we haven't really used a particularly polarizing size, but it's going to allow us to shove the turn. If one person calls, we're going to have a pretty easy turn shove. But I'd rather as soon as get that up to 14-ish and just get as low SPR for the turn as possible. Martel calls. And now we're left with like 29 to 33. Are we the effective stack? Yeah, we are. So if we'd have put like an extra £3 on that turn bet, there'd now be 40 in the pot, and we'd be down at 25 almost. So we'd have like a better jam spot. I think we have to jam. Well, there's less chance of getting called here. I think 29 into 33 versus 25 into 40. I think we like reduce our chances of being called on Ash because there's only one bet here and it's all in. I think we reduce our chances of getting called because I didn't quite make my flop raise big enough. But this check to us, we're only going to do one thing here. We're just going to go all in. It's going to be hard for him to call. That's the problem, because I mean, players shouldn't be stacking off here. If you just say he's got ace king, for example, which I don't think he would have too often. Because again, I think he just four bets Chevy with that pre. I don't think he should at this depth, but I think most players would just four bet ace king pre. He doesn't have pocket nines. If he's got pocket threes, it doesn't matter what size we use. All the money's going in. But I think all the money might have gone in on the flop if he has pocket threes. So we're trying to get called by an ace here because a flush draw doesn't call when we shove. But he probably shouldn't call with too much ace x. Maybe he shouldn't call the flop at this depth. I don't know. And he probably shouldn't call the shove. So this is why I think my flop size could have been better because I don't think we've done enough to trap ace x here. I think if we'd made the flop raise 14 or 15 and then he still calls, we have a turn shove that he probably can't fold on this card. So yeah, I think in hindsight my flop raise could and should have been bigger. But we put the rest of the money in and we just hope for a call. Once we fade the snap, you're just hoping for the call. You just call, and I don't dig people out in videos anymore, but I'm not sure this is a good call. But I'll leave other people to make their minds up on that. I'm not going to dig someone out. Don't do it anymore. I like making videos on Sky, and I don't want to be invited to stop making videos by Sky again. So we'll leave it at that. Here we are. We're at a 20 table still for the time being. Yeah, this is just nothing much going to be said about this. This is an example of how good the games were. Chevy, who at one point had like a £60 stack, has just kind of blundered himself to death. And we have the easy call and he's getting in against 10 jack. Again, there's nothing to discuss about this one. It's just an example of how good the tables were. And we hold and we drag down a nice pot. Moving on to pocket aces. Still 20, and I'll promise you some higher stake stuff coming. We go with the small 3-bet because Steve doesn't have chips. We bet small. Steve calls. We bet small again. We just put him on the payment plan at this point. Just small, small, small. Don't actually remember this hand. Don't know why it's in because it seems very fucking boring. So apologies for this hand being in. No, it's okay. I know why it's in now. It's in because that happened. Steve floated 10-9 offsuit on this flop, and again, we're not digging people out. We'll just move on and yeah, again, it's just to show an example of how good the tables were, and I'm not going to dig Steve out, so we'll leave that one there, and we'll move on to something hopefully more interesting. Still 20 NL. It's, different table. Let me just look how good the tables are. There's not a red tag in sight. We're going for the set mine. We flop in the set, of course. And here's something. I'm going to do something here that I don't think but I don't think anyone else in the pool is doing. I'm the only person that I see who does this. And again, this might be good, it might be bad. I'd be interested in your thoughts on this hand in particular, if anyone's got any. Um, because I'm going to overbet here, and it's not something I see anybody else doing. It's a multi-way pot, and basically we've got the nuts, and we've got multi-way against a lot of people. And I think a lot of people would either just bet a normal size here, or they would. No, I don't think many people would check. Actually, talking out my ass with the check, but I actually go with the overbet, and I do that because there's so many people in the pot. There's a very good chance someone's going to have something that's not folding for any price on the flop, assuming it's not like an outrageous sizing. I mean, if we overbet to 10 quid here, then we're getting a lot of folds from a lot of things. But I think if we make this £2.80, £3, £3.20, anyone that's in there with pocket sixes on these out of these players, pocket sixes isn't folding. Probably 5x isn't folding. Draws aren't folding. Any of that over pairs like eights, nines, tens isn't folding. And there's shitloads of really bad turn cards. We need to thin this field. It's a disaster here if we bet like £1.40 and we get called in 2 or 3 spots and then there's a bad turn card comes off. So I do this quite a lot in multi-way pots. If I've got a really nutted hand, I will I just overbet with my nutted hands in multi-way pots. It's thoroughly exploitable. And regs who watch my videos will absolutely be able to exploit me by just folding everything. But I don't really care about that because I'm not targeting regs anyway. I don't remember what size I used exactly, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's like getting on towards £3. It was £3. And we get called in 3 spots. So we've overbet like 150% pot on the flop, and we get called in 3 spots. We get as safe a turn as we could hope to see. There's £11.50 in the pot. And we've got like an SPR of 2 against these 2 guys. Steve's all in. And I think there's no other size other than all in here, I don't think, in this situation. We had 2 players, 3 players who called. This guy can't put any more action in because he's all in. I mean, maybe we can go a bit smaller. I don't know. We've got an SPR of 2. It's a weird spot. And I just go with the all in for that, just pure value. I think it's harder now to get called by like pocket 8s, pocket 9s. But I think in the eyes of less well studied, less players who like only think about their own hand, or maybe think about their opponent's hand on a very base level, I think it's a good way to just rep like XX of spades here, just repping a draw. When you discuss hands with other players, or when you hear other players discussing hands or read them, and like on a board like this, when people go all in, they just love to give people lots and lots of draws. Now, he's probably just got like a flush draw or something like that, and people will make some very light calls, in my opinion. I don't expect either of these guys to fold pocket 9s here, for example. So we go with the all in. Sadly, both players fold, and you can look at it now and be like, "Oh, Reg, you fucking butchered that." You missed some decent value there, and maybe I did. But had one of them call with pocket 8s, which I expect one or either of them would have done, then we'd be saying what a glorious play it was, or what a glorious result it was at least. Then we just win the pot. Pocket 8s again here. We've isolated a limper. Now playing 30 NL. This guy checks. We have an SPR of 5, so just want to try and get the money in as quickly as possible here. Just going to bet big. I would hope I'm going to bet big. Against a recreational player here, there's like, yeah, fine, you can argue, blah, blah, blah. your range doesn't improve on this flop, etc., etc. You could talk a lot of bollocks, but ultimately we're in position with a vulnerable overpair against a recreational player. For me, it's just bet big and hope good things happen. And why did I bet 120 then? This is annoying me now because I should have gone so much fucking bigger than this. And this is why I enjoy doing these review videos, because this is that really shitty autopilot from me. This wouldn't have happened if I was two tabling. This would have been a much bigger bet. We're going to get value from ace X here. We're going to get value from like anything that's containing a 4 or a 6. Maybe even he just floats 2 overcards here. That's a thing. Maybe not versus bigger bets, but we don't mind folding out 2 overcards here. I think this just we don't want him in a spot like this. We don't mind if King Queen calls, if Queen Jack calls, if Jack 10 calls, etc. But we don't want to give them too much of a tempting price to make sure they do, because we just like them to fold their equity share out. This is shit. I'm not happy with this. This is not a good sizing in my opinion. Many people will be looking at it saying it's a fine sizing, blah blah blah. But no. In position with a vulnerable overpair against a recreational player, we just bet bigger in these spots. He check raises, which could mean a lot of things. Who knows? I mean, we just get it all in at this point. He could already have flopped the wheel, of course. He might just have 5x. He could have pocket 6s, pocket 7s. He could have a 4, although I don't think a 4 raises none all in. I think they either call or just fucking rip it. I don't think a 4 uses this size in particular, but it's just not a spot that I'm willing to fold against a recreational player. We put the money in. He calls, and he's got the 3-4 offsuit, and we move on. Oh dear, that's not ideal, is it? That is not ideal. That is though. So happy days. We won that part, and yeah, just another example of how good the games were. But I'm really pissed off with myself for that flop bet size. It's not the size that I would want to be using personally. And evidence that well, no, hang on, no, I'm not going to be too pissed off myself because the tables are just too good. I had to be all them tables, so I'm not pissed off myself, but I'm irritated that we didn't find a bigger size. Okay, move along video. Move along video. Is it going to move along at any point? All right, here we go. Now, this is probably the most interesting hand from the session, from a theoretical perspective, I guess, because in this hand we're going to be out of position, in a slightly unusual spot versus a player who I think is better than me, and that's not a situation I like to put myself in. I play on Sky, so I'm playing against players who aren't better than me. That's why I'm there. But I spent the entire month of February playing against players who were at least as good as me or better than me in general. I was probably middle of the pool in terms of the games I was putting myself in February. I was probably just bang average. Whereas when I play at Sky, just sitting on the table so far tonight, I try and set up situations where I'm either the best or the second best player at the table. And if I don't think I am, then I tend not to stick around at that table. We joined this table because we saw 2 players who I wasn't familiar with from the lobby. It turns out this guy was blue tagged, but I didn't know him before I opened the table. And then another guy. So we had 2 players who I wasn't familiar with, whose names I didn't recognise. And usually that's an indication it's going to be a good table on Sky, unless it's a new reg or a reg who plays higher playing lower that I just don't know. But Guy's a good player. Pretty sure he's better than me. We try to isolate the limper with the ace king. And we'll move it on to when it's back on us. And Guy makes it £7. This isn't strange because Guy will know. He will 100% know that this is Reg, this is fucking moron. This is Nate. And he chooses a particularly, in my opinion, smallish size for his 3-bet, 14 bigs over 6. So I was a little bit nervous because it doesn't look to me like Guy's trying to get folds. And if he's not trying to get folds, then we're going to be out of position in a pot towards the top of my buying range against a player who I think is better than me, which is a pretty shit situation all around, but out of position to someone who's better and you're at the top of your buying range. That is not a situation you want to find yourself in too often. I've had some thoughts on Ace King lately by that are kind of born from playing speed poker. I mean, a lot of you guys are like, "What's the problem? Let's just four bet, get it in." I think that's a pretty shit line with Ace King these days. I think four bet, get it in with Ace King, or especially even worse, five bet, get it in with Ace King. I don't think it's necessarily that good. I mean, it's probably, well, not probably, it's almost certainly plus EV, but it's high variance, and I don't think you're not going to get crushing here. If I four bet Guy L2 and he shoves on me, then it's a situation we are not remotely delighted with. Well, I'm not anyway. Maybe I'm just a fucking old Nate. But I think his range, if we four bet here, his continued range is going to be incredibly strong and not especially good for Ace King to be going against. Best case scenario, we get it in against Queens, and we're a slight underdog. And he's made it small enough where the guy isn't the guy I'm looking to play big pots with in this table. He made it small enough where, and this, some guys might look at this and say this is really fucking weak. But he's made it small enough where I think we can just call, take a flop, and then proceed with caution. The flop comes down queen high with backdoor straight drawn. We're not especially excited by it, and I'm ready to just give up and not care. I mean, yeah, if guys going to exploit me, he's meant to. He's in position. He's more experienced at these stakes. He's just better than me. So if guys is going to exploit me and pull my pants down here, then fine. He's just going to do that, and he's going to be able to do it quite often, I would imagine. But I'm not here for Guy. I'm here for Carnage and Rico. I didn't sit at this table to just spunk off 100 big blinds to an inferior player who has position on me. So I'm ready to just give up here, pretty much, versus any reasonable sizing. Guy bets small. We can't fall for this. I'm not loving it. It feels like I'm being milked. But we just cannot fall to this. I mean, we might have the same hand. He might have a worse hand that he's just range betting on this pretty dry board. So we have to call. Turn the ace, and at this point, we just nothing we're going to be able to do. If Guy's just got a better hand than us, he's just going to get all the money now because there's going to be no folding. I mean, I'm taking my time because I'm not loving it, but I'm also knowing there's nothing you can do. You just have to call down. I shoot it really bad. I just call quickly to get it over and done with. I expected to lose. And there's no point to it. I was always going to call. There's no point at the time I go down. Get it over with. Like ripping a plaster off, basically. So we ripped the plaster off, and fortunately, we found a guy with the bluff. And I mean, Guy's better than me, so I'm presuming what he's done here is fine. I'm certainly not going to dig him out and say, what the fuck would you do in King 10, etc. Against me, this is going to work a lot. If we don't turn the ace, Guy just wins the pot, I would imagine. So, yeah, Guy's better than me. I'm going to assume this is just good that he's done, and he's been unlucky that he's run into that kind of the top of its range, I guess. So this time we have two aces. Arnold, he's going to become a blue tag later in the evening. Has potted it under the gun. He's been doing a lot of limping, so I'm going to use a bigger size with my three bet than usual because Arnold just been limping a lot. My note on him is he's really spewy post flop, and I just want to he's not folding. I think he's been limping a lot, so when he all of a sudden he goes from limping to potting under the gun, my read was he's just not going to fold. So let's just make a bigger than usual sizing. You can see I stop at 360. And we go to 3. I think we could even go more. I think we could go 420, maybe even 450 here. I don't think he's going to fold when he pots it. But we stop at 390. Arnold calls, and he just donks full pot immediately. And this is just Arnold's style. He's just very, very, very aggressive post flop. I'm assuming he's got a piece of the board or he's got something because he has opened for pot pre when normally he limps. Oh, quite often he limps, and now he's potting the flop. So he's just got something. I think we should probably just jam here, but because of how he plays, as you see, very bad aggro post, we're just going to let him do his thing. Jammed we snap call, and my read pre-flop was good, wasn't it? I think he's got something here. He never limps. He always limps. He never raises, and he just potted 10-6 and got there against us. Good for you, Arnold. Good for you, sir. And we do not get there this time, and Arnold drags down a tasty pot. Another not fun situation. Any Skyregs watching this will be more than familiar with Conga's style of play. He plays similar ranges to me, and you all know what ranges I play. Fucking nitty ones. So again, I think most players would just be just 4-bet here. Let's go. I think 4-bet get it in Ace King pre. We discussed it earlier, so we don't need to go over it again. But it's not. It's not really in my playbook these days against regulars. Against like bad players, it is. Against players who play reasonably well, it just isn't. So we're just going to call here and see a flop. There's nothing else we're going to do. We flop as a top pair. Conga bets. We have an easy call, of course. Check again. Conga goes with the barrel, and at this point, I think Conga's range is going to be pocket aces, ace king, and maybe if we're lucky, king queen. That's going to be his value range. What bluffs he has here, I don't know. He's going to have some because he's although he is like quite a big nit like myself. Everyone has some bluffs from time to time, but what they are and how he builds his bluffing range here, I don't really know. But I think it's not a nice spot, but it's one we know we can't dog it. We flop top pair, top kicker in a 3-bet pot, even though we're up against one of the tightest players in the pool. I think folding at any point would be a crime. Although if he shoves this river, I wouldn't expect to win very often, but I would just call, of course. We check. Thankfully, Conga checks, and I don't remember what he had when I look back. Was it Ace Queen? I think he had Ace Queen. And I think it's fine what he did because I'm gonna have a lot of like just pocket pairs there that are gonna maybe call ones, fold to a turn barrel. Maybe not so much against Conga. Maybe I just get in a no set no bet mindset against Conga. But if I was to have like pocket nines or pocket jacks there, I would have played them similarly until the turn. And if I had like pocket nines or pocket jacks on the turn, I would have check folded to Conga's double barrel. So I think he's took a reasonable line, and I think his give up's pretty reasonable on the river. So yeah, that's the end of that one. Here we have 2 aces, which is always pleasant, especially at a table like this. We bump it up to 6 big blinds against a blue tag limper. What that pause recording's popping up for, but it has. And yeah, we're just going to hopefully bet pretty big here. I think we can go bigger than that, Reg, but never mind. And we're just going to shove the turn. Again, pretty boring hand. Don't know why this one's in there. Because this hand is boring. Right, this is why it's in. Because it's just, again, just demonstrating how good the tables were. And we lose. Nice hand, Bobby. Here we have isolated Arnold's limp. Arnold's gone back to limping. We're getting a little bit deeper. Aha, yes, this hand's just in because this guy turned up, and what a nice guy he was too. Genuinely, I mean, he was just chatting away at the tables. He was punting, and he knew he was punting, and he didn't really give a fuck. And he was chatting away. He was friendly, and he's a nice guy. So this isn't to dig him out at all, but it's an example of like the sort of things that can happen at 3:05 in the morning on a Sunday on Sky. He was trolling the table. He was having a bit of fun digging around, easy chips here, etc. We raised. He's 3-bet to 420. Arnold's called. And I just go, I think I go with the nuclear option. If you'll excuse the phrase in current events, current times. And we just go with the fuck you lads, I'm all in. And we get a call and it's 10-8, and we'll skip over the rest of it because as I say, I don't want to dig the guy out. He was having fun. He was good action. He was creating a lot of action at the tables. But did that flop need to come down? We get it in with Ace King against 10-8. which is not the best of spots anyway. It's fine. We're ahead and we've got our money in good, but it's not like we're a crushing favourite. And then he has to flop the open ender and the backdoor flush draw just for good measure. It was quite the sweat, and luckily he bricked out, and we got there. It's like easy gypsy. Then just types in told you. Yeah, he was fun. This was an interesting few moments. This isn't too much long later at the same table. I think above there he'd put one day I wake up every morning and one day I just want to beat the Don in a pot. That's what he'd put, which is where I put. It's really not very difficult, and it isn't because I do a lot of folding. Anyways, we didn't isolate the ace 10 off from the small blind because every cunt was going to call, and then we'd be left with the ace 10 off a lot. So we just completed and then we checked the flop, which a lot of you guys will think is fucking weak. I don't really give a fuck if you do think that. He bets pot, Arnold calls, we call. Not the greatest of turn cards, but I'm not about to fold. He bets pot again, Arnold folds, we call. Checking the river. He bets pot again. We call very quickly because there's just nothing else you can do against this guy. He was just bombing. He was having a blast. He was enjoying him. I think he was enjoying himself anyway. And I'm just not in a position to fold here. And if he just had a better hand, then good for him. He deserves the action. He certainly deserves the action because he was giving plenty, and he had that. And yeah, that was nice. I think this is going to be the last hand of the session, I believe. So this is interesting because it's a 15L table. We've got Salt, who has min raised. And you got Steve, who was like not min 3-bet, made a really small 3-bet. And like usually, this is a spot where we don't want to be having any cold calls in the spot. Bet a cut off raise and a button 3-bet isn't a spot where you'd want to have any like cold calls, especially not at the small blind. But it's just really, really small still. G-ball is in the big blind. Again, I don't have much to do with him in terms of like playing with him. He plays a little bit higher. I think he's almost certainly going to be better than me, but how much better, I don't know. Maybe he's just got more balls than me and just plays higher. I've never seen him do anything bad. I've never seen him do anything that makes you think, wow, this guy's a sicko either. This thing is a standard, solid regular. Do I think he's going to get out of line and squeeze quite a lot here? Probably not. When you've got two loose recreational players who've already like raced and re-raced, I don't think you're going to get too far out of line. So I think we can get away with flatting and hoping Salt doesn't reopen the betting. I think we can. Could be a big mistake, but I've got a hand that isn't going to play too difficultly post flop. If we get to a flop, then we're going to know where we're at on a lot of boards against two recreational players. And if we can flop ourselves a set, then we're very likely to get a lot of value from Steve. Then Salt flicks it in. And I remember, like, at this point, I was chatting in the Discord and I'd already mentioned I was really tired. I was almost falling asleep. I was really tired. I was like, yeah, it was strange. I was like, having some, like, weird out of body shit going on. And I don't want to sound too fucking weird because I'm not. But it's like when you're tired and you kind of find yourself almost daydreaming and you're just not functioning at all well. This is what I was at this point. 4 a.m. I was too tired. I shouldn't have been playing, and I kind of just said to myself, "Well, fuck it, just call it off. If you lose, then it's just time to call it a night, and if you win, then happy days." But this was going to be like one of my last hands that I played. We call. I don't think it's a particularly good call, to be honest. I think we're going to be behind to Salt or flipping. But I was tired. No excuse, but I was. We call it off. He has the ace queen. And we do a hold, which is nice. It's nice to do a hold. And that was my trigger to kind of start wrapping the session up because I was just really tired. We've been playing for 3.5 to 4 hours. I was down to 3 tables at this point. Tables are getting a bit worse. You see at this table now, you've got 3 regulars in Conga, Baller, and Loose Camel. And I was knackered. I'd had a reasonable night. I'd made a few quid. Yeah, I just wasn't functioning as highly as I was at the start of the session. And we got away with one at the end. We won a flip in a 80 big blind pot. So What am I talking about? 80 big blind. Is it an 80 big blind? Is it fucking 80 big? Yeah, it is. Fucking hell, not functioning now. So yeah, that's the end of the hands. And yeah, I guess now I just want to talk a little bit about how it's gone since I came off speed poker. I've had a couple of small dabbles back in it. Both times within 20 minutes, I've been like, no, this isn't. I'm not enjoying it. It's. I think my problem I've got at the moment is like between Monday and Thursday. Sky's not a good place at the moment. It's traffic is dropping. They're dropping all the MTT guarantees, the cash table traffic. I discussed with like quite a lot of regulars, and we all agree it's the traffic isn't great. And when the games run, they're nothing great. They're not brilliant, but they're still better. Even a bad Sky table is usually going to be at least as good as speed poker, and most often better than it. The Sky is still the place to be. I just need to accept that Monday through Thursday, we're just going to be that kind of clocking and going to work, and just like not expecting, not having too high expectations, which is something that I think, like for the last 4 or 5 months, I've placed too much high expectations on myself. I've put myself in games where I've overestimated how big I think my win rate is or should be. Um, and I've set my goals based on like a false premise. I thought this is my win rate, so if I this is what I think my win rate is. So if I play this much volume, this is how much money I should make. And I've fallen short of like how much money I should make. I've made it more than enough money that to continue living the lifestyle that I want to live, but I haven't made as much money as I thought I would make. And then that's had like a slow but sure impact on my mindset and my mentality to the point where February it was possibly like the worst month I've had for a while. Even though like, we looked at the last video, I made money. It in terms of like performance and big blinds per 100, it was my worst month in fucking living memory. I haven't had a month as bad as that for a long time. And as we talked about in the last video, we're just not going to be playing those games as much anymore. And we're going to be focusing more on Sky, playing 2 or 3 tables. And as we talked about earlier in this video, when I almost timed out with the nuts on the river against Lally, I can't be putting myself at like 5 tables on Sky very often. Because again, I just don't function very well. If the tables are really great, I have to do it, but I have to accept that I'm not going to play as well. My win rate isn't going to be as good, but maybe my hourly is compensates me for that in the short term, just because I'm at good tables. So we know we're going to play tighter. We're not going to put as much thought into it, and we're just hopefully going to get away with playing like strong ranges against weaker players and just getting the money that way, rather than like playing really good poker. So yeah, like it's Monday now. I'm not especially, looking forward to the next few days of poker. I'm going to enjoy it because I'm enjoying the game again. My love for the game's coming back. But I know I'm going to be sat quite often just 1, 2, 3 tabling. I'm going to flick in some tournaments in the evenings. If I'm playing and I've only got say 1 or 2 good cash tables, I'll throw in the occasional like 10 or 22 pound tournament and just to like keep me going. I don't really enjoy tournaments, but I played them the last couple of nights. The Sky have got a free roll promotion going, and normally I don't bother with free rolls, but this is quite a nice one. And I made £40 over the last 2 nights from the free roll. I've had a couple of deep runs in it, which it just keeps me in the game. It keeps me looking at the lobby because what quite often happens is I look at the lobby at 7. There won't be much going on. And I'll be like, oh, this is shit, and I won't look for a few hours. And if I'm playing anyway, I'm constantly just looking at the lobby, and now and again the table pops up that's worth playing. So just playing a few tournaments just keeps me in the game, gets me to put my hours in, and just keeps my head in the look at the lobby. Is there a good table? Is there a good table? Is there a good table? Um, I will do some tables starting too, although tables don't fill as much as they used to. What I've noticed is lately my short-handed game is fucking terrible. Usually I don't leave tables when they go three-handed, especially if there's like one recreational player at the table. But I have been lately because short-handed, especially if I've got 2 or 3 other tables going, um, I just think I'm negative EV playing three-handed. If there's a regular at the table and one recreational player, unless the recreational player is very deep with me, I typically just stand up. Just say, for example, there's me and a reg with 100 blinds and a recreational with 50 blinds. Yeah, I know I'm just like conceding a spot there to another reg where he's very likely to just get the 50 blinds because I'm quitting. But I'm just willing to do that because like I said earlier, I'm 48 now. I don't function as well as I used to when I've got to think quickly. I think when I'm given time to think, I think I'm still a pretty good player. Um, I'm not as technically gifted. I'm not as up on current strategies as a lot of my peers, but I still think I'm a pretty good player. And there's things I don't do as well as some regs, but there's things I think I do better than some regs too. So I'm competitive. I'd back myself at most tables on Sky to do okay if I was just playing one or two tables, or if we're in a live setting where you could take your time. But my edge gets reduced significantly if if I'm at slightly tougher tables and there's short-handed going on them at 3 or 4 tables, I think any edge I do have quickly gets eroded. So I just got to be aware of like the environment and creating for myself, and just be aware and accept that I'm getting older. I'm not as sharp, I'm not as quick as I used to be, but I'm still plenty good enough to make money as long as I create good situations for myself. So I'm going to be doing that going forward. We're going to continue to readjust my mind away from the speed poker and accept that fine, Reg, you're going to be low volume, but you're going to focus on game quality and the quality of your play. And hopefully, if we get in good quality games, and I can produce my B plus game at a much more consistent frequency, then I'm pretty confident I'll still be able to get the job done and make some money, which is why we all do it, isn't it? So yeah, that's the end of the video. That one last thing to look at is just to the only way we can show results now on videos is to do this. This is like that's 14 days on Sky since we quit Speed Poker. I'm really happy with that. I think we've lost a little bit in tournaments, but we've won 40 quid in the free rolls. So I'm not entirely sure how much of that is like direct cash game profit, but most of it will be, if not all of it. Um, I'm really pleased with that. I'm pretty pleased with my volume too. Like 14 days turned over 6.5, 7,000 quid, which indicates that I've been putting the hours in. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Um, yeah, that normally my measure of how I'm doing on Sky is if this number is around 5% of these numbers, then I'm pretty happy with it. I don't exactly know how that turns out as like an ROI or anything like that. I'm not clever enough to figure that shit out. No idea how it converts to big blinds per 100. But if my profit is 10% of 5% or better of these numbers, it's usually an indication that I'm doing pretty well. So we'll keep our eye on that as the month goes on. Yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. I don't think I'll be doing another one until next Monday now. I very much doubt it. If I get some good tables, I maybe just put my screen recorder on and capture some hands, but more than likely we'll just end up recording like Friday night, Saturday night, and picking out the most fun hands from that spot and doing another video like this next Monday. So probably won't be another one till next Monday, but if there is, then oh well and good. If there isn't, then there isn't. But we'll leave it there. Have a great week, everybody. Please don't forget to hit like if you haven't already, but you've reached this stage of the video, and please leave a comment if you can be asked. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Have a fantastic week, and bye bye for now.